Namaste students. You have already learnt that reproduction is the most important function of any living organism for the survival of the species. In flowering plants, this function is performed by the flower. The flower is usually the most beautiful and conspicuous part of a plant. Now what is this flower? Flower nothing but it is a specialized shoot in which the leaves have been modified into floral structures. Floral nothing but flower structure. Now flower is nothing but it is a specialized shoot in which the leaves are modified into floral structure. So this flower is a most attractive and beautiful part of the plant. At the same way, this flower also involved in the reproduction. It helps for the increasing the number of the plant. Now in today's class we are going to study detail about the structure of a typical flower and how it involved in the fertilization as well as the pollination process. Next, stalk. The flower is attached to the shoot by means of a stalk or pedicel. The tip of the stalk is enlarged and slightly flattened, from where the petals and other parts arise. Here, the flower is attached to the stem with the help of a green color long filament like structure that is called as a stalk, or it is also called as a pedicel. In some of the flower, the stalk is absent, we call it as a sessile. But in most of the flower, we can see the stalk. The tip of the stalk, it is broader one. It is expanded, or it is broader one. It is expanded to form a cup shaped structure that is called as a receptacle, or it is called as a thalamus. We call it as a receptacles, or it is called as a thalamus. So from this thalamus, the remaining parts of the flower arises. It may be the petals, sepals, androecium, gynoecium. These parts will arises from this thalamus region. It is a broad expanded part of the stalk. The floral parts are borne on the thalamus in 4 whorls, means 4 rounds. First one, calyx. This is the outermost part of the flower, forming a whorl of tiny green leaf-like structures called sepals. So calyx is the outermost whorl of the flower, and it has a small green color leaf-like structure that is called as a sepals. The unit of calyx is called sepals. Sepals are collectively together is called as a calyx. In some of the flower, good example is hibiscus, we can see the 2 whorl of the calyx. Outermost whorl is called as epicalyx, and inner whorl of the green leaf-like structure is called calyx. Especially we can see in the hibiscus, we can see epicalyx as well as the calyx region. But in most of the flower, we can see only the calyx part. The unit of calyx is called as a sepals. And what is the main function of these sepals or calyx? First one, in the bud condition, they enclose the inner parts of the flower, providing them necessary protection. I think you observed during the bud condition of the flower, almost all the buds are little bit green in color, because calyx cover the remaining part of the flower, because to give the protection. That's why they are green in color. So calyx main function is it gives the protection for the remaining parts of the flower during bud condition. Second, photosynthesis. Because calyx is green in color, it has a chlorophyll pigment, so it involved in the photosynthesis process. Next, corolla. Corolla, it is the second inner whorl arranged next to the sepals. The unit of corolla is called petals. The corolla is the second whorl of the flower. It is arranged next to the calyx region, and the unit of corolla is called petals. Here petals are grouped together to form a corolla. Here petals are different in colors in different flowers. So its main function is to attract the agents for pollination. Especially for cross pollination, it requires the agent. To attract the agents like insect, birds, these petals are having very brightful color. As well as some of the petals are having good fragrance, because to attract the agents for the pollination. So corolla is the second whorl of the flower. Next, androecium, or the male reproductive part of the flower. It is the next whorl inner to the petals. Androecium is the third whorl of the flower. It is arranged inner to the petals region. And androecium is the male reproductive part of the flower. Unit of androecium is called stamens. Many stamens are grouped together to form androecium. Each stamen consists of two parts. It has a long, narrow, thin, thread-like structure called filament. And at the tip of the filament, we can see a bilobed structure that is called anther. So at the tip of the filament, we can see a bilobed structure that we call as a anther. Each anther contains 4 pollen sacs. Sacs means bag. In the pollen sacs, we can see the pollen grains. The pollen grains contains the male gametes. Each anther consists of 4 pollen sacs. Inside the pollen sacs, we can see a pollen grains. I think you can observe the hibiscus flower. In the morning, you can see the yellow powder-like structure. If you touch that yellow powder, it will stick to your fingers region. That is nothing but pollen grains. When anthers burst, pollen grains come out. And these pollen grains are sticky in nature because it helps for the cross pollination. This sticky nature help for the sticking these pollen grains to the agent's body. It may be for the wing, legs or mouth region of the insects. And that insects, if you go for the another flower, so that pollen grains stick on the stigma of that another flower. So for the pollination purpose, the pollen grains are sticky in nature. So this is the male reproductive part of the flower, that is the androecium. Next, gynoecium. Gynoecium, it is the female reproductive part of the flower. And it is the innermost or 4th whorl of the flower. Unit of gynoecium is called carpels or pistil. Each pistil consists of 3 parts. It has a swollen part at the base region, that is called as ovary, and in the middle it has a narrow thread-like structure that is called style, and at the tip it has a expanded part that is called stigma. Each pistil consists of 3 parts: ovary, style and stigma. This style, it connects ovary and stigma region. When pollen grains fall on the stigma, pollen grains form a pollen tube. That pollen tube, through the style, it reaches to the ovary region. So gynoecium is a female reproductive part of the flower. The unit of gynoecium is called pistil or carpel. Inside the ovary region, we can see ovules. Ovules are nothing but it is a small rounded like structure present inside the ovary. Each ovule contains an egg cell which later develops into a seed after successful fertilization. When ovules fertilized with the male gamete, it gives rise to a seed, because inside the ovule we can see a egg cell. So this egg cell fertilized with the male gamete to form a seed. So in the flower we can see essential and non-essential part. The part of the flower which are involved in the reproduction, that parts of the flower is called essential parts. The parts of the flower which is not involved in the reproduction, that is called non-essential part. In the flower, androecium and gynoecium is called essential part because they are directly involved in the reproduction. Here, calyx and corolla, they are non-essential part because they are not involved in the reproduction. Next, pollination. It is the process of transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower is called pollination. Pollination is the process of transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower is called pollination. There are two types of pollination we can see. One is self-pollination and is the cross-pollination. First we can study self-pollination. Self-pollination nothing but it is the process of transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or the stigma of another flower on the same plant is called self-pollination. Self-pollination is also called as autogamy. Here, self-pollination means the process of transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the same flower or to the stigma of the another flower of the same plant. But in self-pollination it takes place within a one plant. Either it may be within a one flower or it may be between two flowers of the same plant. So that is called as a self-pollination. Next, cross-pollination. It is the process of transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of another flower on a different plant of the same species. Is a process of transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of another flower on a different plant of the same species. Here in the cross-pollination, two plants are involved, but the two plants are in the same species. Here from the pollen grains from one flower of one plant, it transferred to the stigma of another flower of different plant, but both the plants are same species. That is called as a cross-pollination, or it is also called as allogamy. Suppose if pollen grains fall on the stigma of different plants of the different species, what will happen? In that condition, there is no fertilization process because here anthers and stigma, they are in different species of the flower. So here, pollination takes place within the same species, not different species. Next, agents of cross-pollination. For pollen grains to be transferred, certain carriers are required. These carriers are called agents of pollination. Wind, water, insects, birds are different agents of pollination. The plants and the flowers have certain characteristic features depending on the type of the agent of pollination. These features help the plant in pollination. Here, for the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma, it requires the agent, especially for cross-pollination. This agent may be biotic or abiotic, means it may be water, wind or insect, birds. So, but it requires one of the agent to carry the pollen grains. So, depending upon the agents, the flowers having their own characteristics. So, that we can study one by one. First one, insect pollinating agent. Here agent is the insect, pollination by insect. When insects help in pollination, such a transfer of pollen grains is called insect pollination. Here butterfly, bees and other insects visit flowers for nectar. When an insect alights on a flower, the pollen grains stick to its mouth parts, wings or legs part. When this insect visits to another flower, the pollen grains from its body may fall off on the stigma of that flower. Here insects will go near to the flower for the nectar purpose. At that time, pollen grains will stick to their body parts, and the same insect, if visit to the another flower, that pollen grains will fall on the stigma of the flower. So that is a cross pollination with the help of the insects. Next, characteristics of insect pollinated flowers. First one, these flowers are large and colored petals to attract insects. Yes, the flower should be larger in size because it can be easily recognized by the insect, and bright colored. The petals should be in a bright color. Because of this brightness, it can attract the agents. Next, these are scented so that insects locate the flowers by smell. Some of the flowers are having good fragrance because to attract the insect. Because of this fragrance, insect will go near to that flower. Or they can identify the flowers with the help of this fragrance. These contain nectar as food for insects. Yeah, insects visit near to the flower for the nectar purpose. So this nectar acts as a food for the insect. That's why the flower should produce nectar. Next, these produce sticky pollen grains so that they may stick to the body parts of the insect. Yeah, pollen grains should be sticky in nature. If the pollen grains are sticky in nature, it can easily stick to the body of the insects. If it is not sticky in nature, the pollen grains will not stick on the body of the insect. The cross pollination does not take place. That's why pollen grains should be sticky in nature. Next, pollination by wind. Some plants, when their flowers mature, the pollen grains get blown away by the wind. These pollen grains may fall in all sorts of places and some may even get wasted. But if they happen to fall on the stigma of a flower of the same type, then pollination occurs. Here, especially we can see in the maize, palm, pine, pollination takes place by wind. Here when flowers mature, anthers burst and pollen grains releases. These pollen grains is easily carried by the wind, and when it fall on the stigma of the flower of the same species, then pollination occurs by wind. Characteristics of wind pollinated flowers. First one, they are usually small and are of dull colors. Yes, here the flowers are too small in size and they are in dull colors. If the flowers are large and bright colors means it is easily recognized by the insect. But some of the flowers are very small and they are dull in color. In that condition, pollination takes place with the help of the wind. Next, they generally have long anthers protruding out of the flower so that pollen grains may get blown off easily. Here, anther should be out of the flower. It has to be little bit longer in the filament, should be longer in size. It has to hang out of the flower. So when it hangs out of the flower, the pollen grains easily carried by the wind. If the pollen grains are inside the flower or anthers are inside the flower, that pollen grains is not easily carried by the wind. So that's why anthers should be contains a long filament. It should be hang out of the flower. Then pollen grains can be easily carried by the wind. Next, they produce a large quantity of pollen. Yes, because when wind carries these pollen grains, some amount of pollen grains may waste. So that's why it should be produce a large quantity of pollen grains. Next, the pollen grains are light so that they are easily carried away. Yeah, pollen grains should be lightweight. If it is in moist or if the wet condition, wind cannot be carried very easily. So if the pollen grains are very light, so wind can carry these pollen grains from one place to another place very easily. Next, pollination by water. Here, some of the aquatic plant pollination takes place by water. But except lotus, here lotus, it is above the water level. The flower is above the water level. So it is pollination takes place by insect. Good example for water pollinated plant is Vallisneria. Here in the Vallisneria we can see the two types of plant. One plant acts as a male plant, another plant acts as a female plant. Here when the male flowers mature, they get detached from the parent plant and float on the surface of water. These floating male flowers, on reaching a female flower, transfer the pollen grains to the stigma. Here two plants we can see, one acts as a male, another acts as a female plant. Here when the male flowers mature, so it will come on the surface of water level. So when it comes on the surface of water level, so anthers will burst and pollen grains released. That pollen grains then transfer to the stigma of the female flower. So this is the pollination by water. Next, characteristics of water pollinated flower. First one, flowers are small and light so that they can easily float on water. Here the flowers should be smaller in size and lightweight. That's why they can easily float on the water surface. Next, male and female flowers are born on separate plant. Male flowers and female flowers, they should be born on separate plant. The pollen grains are produced in large numbers. Yeah, pollen grains should be produced in a large numbers. Otherwise, some amount of pollen grains may waste. That's why it should be produced in a large number. Next, fertilization. After pollination, fertilization process takes place. Fertilization nothing but it is the fusion of male cell and the female cell to produce a zygote. In the process of fusion of male and female gamete to produce a zygote is called fertilization. Here, when the pollen grains fall on the stigma region, these pollen grains produce a long tube-like structure that is called as a pollen tube. This pollen tube arises by absorbing the moisture from the stigma surface. This pollen tube now contains the male gamete. This male gamete divides into two. In the pollen tube, now we can see two male gamete. This pollen tube then reaches to the near to the ovary region. In the ovary region, there is a small opening is there, that is called micropyle. So, through this micropyle, pollen tube enters inside the ovary region, and it releases these two male gamete inside the ovules region. Inside the ovary, ovules are there. So, through this micropyle, the pollen tube will enter and it releases the two male gamete inside the ovules region. In that, one male gamete is fused with the female egg cell to produce zygote. One male gamete is fused with the female egg cell in the ovules region, so it produces a zygote. Another male gamete, it fuses with the central cell. In the central cell, we can see the polar nuclei. So, another male gamete is fused with the polar nuclei to form endosperm. Here, 2 times fertilization takes place, so it is called as a double fertilization. Double fertilization nothing but 2 times fertilization takes place. One is one male gamete is fused with the female egg cell to produce a zygote. Another male gamete is fused with the polar nuclei to produce endosperm. So, here 2 times fertilization takes place, so it is called as a double fertilization.
Fertilization in plants. When the pollen grains mature, they escape and reach the stigma of the flower by pollination. The pollen tube grows and enters the ovule through micropyle. The pollen tube enters into the cavity of the ovary and then the ovule and finally penetrates the wall of the embryo sac. Embryo sac contains 8 nuclei. 2 nuclei present in the center are called polar nuclei. 3 nuclei surrounded by cytoplasm form the egg apparatus towards the micropylar end, and the remaining 3 on the other pole form antipodal cells. Fertilization is the process of fusion of male gamete with female gamete. During this process, the pollen tube discharges the male cells into the embryo sac. One of the male gamete fuses with egg to form a diploid zygote, and this is called syngamy. The second male gamete fuses with diploid secondary nucleus to form the endosperm nucleus. Since this process includes 2 fusions, this is called double fertilization. Endosperm nucleus is formed by fusion of 3 nuclei. Since it involves 3 nuclei, it is called triple fusion.
Next, what will happen the flower parts after fertilization? Here, the ovule containing the fertilized cell develops into a seed. The covering of the ovule gives rise to the seed coat, and the ovary containing the seeds develop into a fruit. Here, ovules containing the fertilized cell, it gives rise to a seed. Seed is nothing but it is a matured fertilized ovule is called as a seed, and the covering of the ovule acts as a seed coat, and this matured ovary containing these seeds act as a fruit. That's why inside the fruit we can see the seeds. And what about the remaining parts, that is the petals and sepals? The petals and sepals fall off. After fertilization, the petals and sepals fall off. But in some, we can see this, especially this sepals part. In some of the fruits as well as in the vegetables, the sepals remains. For example, in brinjal and as well as in the chili, you can see the sepals part, it remains. So, in some, the petals and sepals fall off, but in some, sepals remains. Especially, good example is chili as well as in the brinjal. Next, artificial pollination. artificial pollination means transfer of pollen grains to the stigma manually. Means with the help of the human being, transfer of pollen grains takes place from anthers to the stigma region. So that is called artificial pollination. Here, nowadays, artificial pollination is practiced by plant breeders for developing new varieties. Now, what are the steps are there for the artificial pollination? We can see. Selection. First, the male and female plants of the same species but with the different desired characters are selected. Here, first you have to select the plants. Here one acts as a male plant, another acts as a female plant, but both the plant in the same species. And both the plant should contain different desirable characters. For example, so one variety may be high yielding and another may be disease resistance. The one plant should be having a high yielding capacity, another plant should be having a resistance capacity. That is a selection of plant. Next, removal of stamen. Stamens are removed manually from the bisexual flowers before they mature to prevent natural pollination from the same plant or flower. Here, removal of stamens. You have to remove the stamens part of the bisexual flowers because to avoid pollination. That is, it may be the self or it may be the cross pollination naturally takes place. To avoid the natural pollination, you have to remove the stamens of the flower. Next, bagging. The flowers are covered with paper or polythene bags. This is done to prevent natural pollination from plants which are not selected. After removing the stamens, you have to cover the flower with the help of the bag because to avoid the natural pollination, because stigma part remains there. So stigma may receive the pollen grains of some other flower. To avoid that one, we have to cover the flower with the help of the polythene bag. Next, pollination. Pollen grains from desirable plants are collected and it is dusted or is spread on the stigma of the selected flowers. Here, whatever you collected the pollen grains, that pollen grains you can spread on the stigma of the selected flower. So this is the artificial pollination. So this process we can apply for rice, wheat, maize, etc.